Hey, this is the Sneaky Dragon. We're looking at On the Edge of Oblivion. Shu versus Mercenary. Oh, this is going to be an excellent game. So Shu opens, just capturing the racks and building a left sword. Very standard for player 1 on Edge of Oblivion. Then we have Dioda here as Mercenary, who comes down, captures this village with the commander. We've got an inward-facing sword here, an outward-facing sword here. All perfectly standard. No, actually, that's a little weird. Normally, you see the sword on the commander side built here, so that it can capture this village after the commander takes it out. I wonder what exactly Mercenary is up to. Alright, so Caesar responds with an almost classical opening. Left sword takes this village, sword on the outward racks makes a sword to capture this village. But now Caesar is also making an inward sword here, instead of bringing a sword to help the commander, and additionally the commander is healing off of the racks, meaning Caesar is going to have a very early health boost. Alright, we take a look at Mercenary, and Mercenary hurts their commander attacking into this village since they didn't heal like Shu did. They didn't quite have enough to take it out. But Yoda is going to get a little bit of groove charge off that, and because Yoda is fast now, it's a decent amount of groove charge, that's 20%. The swords over here are all pretty standard, and it looks like an alchemist was made to grab these villages a little bit quicker. Alright, looks pretty good. Shu is just capturing villages and is moved on to a more standard capture pattern. And it looks like Mercenary is doing more of the same, but their commander had to attack the village a second time. However, because of all those shenanigans, Dioda already has groove. A pike was built here to capture this village and march forward. Very nice. So Shu responds to the early Dioda groove by just capturing the village with a sword. Now it'll be a little tricky to take it, because for this pike to hit the village, Dioda would first have to move out of the way. But Dioda can't take out the village, meaning it is impossible to capture this village. This turn, the best Mercenary can do is just take it out. Shu captures the village he took with the commander, and the sword just takes this village here. Regarding the two back villages, Shu is a little behind there, but built a sword to capture probably this one and then go for the rookery. Alright, so it looks like Mercenary is closing out their collection of villages, but has nothing near the rookery yet. Dioda has groove, but is too low on health to use it, and they're sort of fighting Shu for these internal villages that are still on Mercenary's side. Interestingly enough, Mercenary chose not to take this one, maybe to avoid allowing Caesar to farm groove off it. That decision, though, just let Caesar capture it for free. Additionally, Caesar made an internal knight last turn that seems to be charging forward towards the center of the map. Normally, knights are built on the outside, but this will let the knight get to the center very quickly. Caesar's building another internal knight with the other barrack, so it looks like Caesar's rushing internal knights. Going into Dioda on this map, with the new fast groove and its high power charge, it's a very good idea to have a lot of knights, because Dioda can't do too much damage to them on groove. They have very wide attack range, given their high movement, and they do decent damage to commanders. Additionally, Caesar is now at full health. Shu wants to make sure that he has enough attack power and pressure to keep Dioda from going too deep and causing lots of damage with that groove. Alright, Mercenary used 2 pikes to take this village, and now that sword has to retreat. Dioda is finally healing off an internal village and is at full health. However, Shu owns a village in Mercenary's territory. Now, if we look down there, it looks like Shu just finally at the bottom of the map started to capture some of those bottom villages. Alright, Dioda is trying to take back the villages in their territory, but it looks like Caesar is still penetrating deep, taking this village, and having captured the back villages. Caesar is now ahead on income by about 200. However, Dioda has pikes and a knight here, so it might be able to steal that village away from Caesar going forward. But it is Caesar's turn, using the heavy knights, and Caesar chooses to just group his units up like this. There's a reason for this formation, but take a look. It's very difficult for Dioda to go in here and come out of it alive. Because let's say Dioda walks 1, 2, 3, 4, Can't do anything. Okay, what if they move a unit there? 1, 2, 3, 4, and puts the sword here. Still doesn't work. Okay, what if the sword goes here? Let's say this sword goes here. Dioda walks over here, grooves over the sword. 1, 2. Well, you're kind of stuck. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you're stuck again. It's really hard. Dioda would have to put more units in danger to get even a decent groove off, and there wouldn't be a whole lot of jumps. So she was positioning to try to prevent Dioda from getting a good groove. That being said, I think there's still some paths possible to get like a groove. Maybe Dioda could have gone up here, come back down, and then use this knight. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, crit that, and then use it as an escape route across the pikes, and Dioda would end up all the way up here safe. But Mercenary chose not to do that. Instead, just playing it safe, using pikes to take villages, retreating the knight. You also have to remember Caesar has groove, so if Dioda went in there, Caesar could still theoretically groove knights or alchemists, maybe attack the stronghold, attack Dioda. The Caesar groove is threatening Dioda not to groove recklessly. Alright, I see a lot of alchemists coming out, maybe to counter Caesar's harpy, but one harpy isn't too dangerous, though you definitely want to have some anti-air on the field. But building a lot of alchemists into 4 knights is a little bit risky. Ignoring the pikes, Caesar just goes straight in here for the knights, and uses them to take territory. And now, Caesar groove. He's not saving it, he's using it as soon as possible. Look at that. And he's going to use the Caesar groove here to take out these pikes so that the knights he put in their threat range are perfectly safe. This pike could still attack that knight a bit, but he's more or less fine. So instead of saving groove, trying to use it for a lethal or an assassination, she was like, no, I'm going to keep pressure on. I still have their village over here. I'm going to take another one and kill some pikes. Now there aren't as many pikes near my knights. That's a lot of pressure. Again, Dioda could have a decent groove here, given how the units are positioned, but Caesar has made it very difficult by having a ton of kill power here. Instead, Dioda is just choosing to not groove and slowly move forward, try to reclaim territory. That village is actually in Caesar's territory, so Dioda taking it is trying to even up the score a little bit. But Caesar has 1 village in their territory missing and 1 taken, and Dioda has 1 missing and 1 taken. So right now, Dioda has just evened up the income. However, it's Shu's turn, and Shu has a giant. Now, pikes are actually very good at fighting giants. If you have enough pikes, you can very efficiently, even in 2.0, take out a giant. However, the pikes are not really standing in a good position to be able to defeat that giant, and all the pikes would have to be dedicated to it to take it down, or Dioda would have to come over here and groove the giant. Basically, there's not a lot of threat there, so Shu felt pretty safe just taking out that village. Meanwhile, Shu was going up here with the knights and the commander, and threatening Dioda's racks. So Dioda has to respond to that. The Alchemist heal, trying to keep the knights healthy. Shu wants to keep all the attacking units at high health, very alive, to keep the pressure on. All these units are surrounding the stronghold because they're terrified of that Dioda groove. They want to make it impossible for Dioda to get a good groove. If Dioda comes down here, grooves off sword, grooves off harpy, gets stuck. Comes over here somehow. This is a straight line. You've got nothing into this. And he can't move far enough. Okay, so maybe he could stand in front of the Alchemist. Jump here, 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 and then come back. But all you've really done is hurt an Alchemist, 2 swords, and some villages. And that's it. So Shu is working really hard to keep Dioda from damaging anything valuable. If Dioda grooves, they're either stuck or more or less wasted. And because of that, Caesar's been farming for a second groove, and Dioda hasn't even gone yet. Alright, here's the Dioda groove. Lots of charge up. Oh, and there it is, exactly like we talked about. They damaged the Alchemist, a little bit on the Stronghold, but that's mostly going to regen if there's no follow-up. 2 swords and some villages, but the villages couldn't get taken out, and Dioda had to stop there. The charge up was good for giving Dioda extra damage on the groove, but it didn't really do a lot of damage. Now Caesar is making great use of those knights to instantly go after Dioda. He had to back off here because of all the pikes, and the main attack force there was knights. You're not going to win knights into pikes. So they repositioned. Dioda no longer has groove. Now Caesar's on the aggressive. Tons of damage to the commander. Force them to retreat. Look at all that damage. and using the alchemist to keep them healthy. She was working very hard to keep the knights at high health, so that they can't be taken out by weaker units. Alright, a big grouping here, making it a little bit difficult to attack into. These pikes that were built for defense can't reach this blob, so they're basically useless. If that harpy goes in, there are plenty of alchemists that can take it out, and this alchemist is protected on the right by a village. There's no way to eat through these full health knights. There's a lot of power here. They can counterattack all of this. Swords and alchemists, very counterattackable. So Shu has built up this giant force blob that can't be attacked into and can definitely counterattack. Mercenary just uses the pikes to try to reclaim territory here, and we're still about even on income. Notice Mercenary still has 1 village of Shu's. Oh, I'm sorry. Mercenary has 2 villages of Shu's, and Shu only has 1 village of Mercenaries. So Mercenary has gained on income, but Yoda was forced to retreat. Lots of heals being thrown down to try to keep Yoda alive, and now Shu has all this territory. These pikes are scary, but they're too far away. Now, Mercenary's building more pikes in a balloon over here, but these pikes are just going to be useless if Shu relocates. The giant was used to reclaim this village, and a harpy was built to counteract this... a mage was built to counteract this harpy in case the harpy tries to attack the giant. So this mage here will protect this giant and let the giant keep pushing forward, and the sword can capture properties that the giant decaps. The dog is just a general fast attacking unit. Right, now Caesar edges forward a little bit carefully because there is a pike here, there is an archer there. Yoda can be healed, there's a knight. So they're creating this nice diagonal front, trying to move away from these pikes towards the main army, towards the properties that we're fighting over without getting too close. Because they don't want to give Yoda too much of a counterattack. Alright, Mercenary is able to reclaim and steal territory, so Mercenary is still doing really well on income, but troop-wise, Mercenary is forced to retreat. And that retreat could be a little costly, because it gives Shu some room to push forward. Alchemist gets a crit on that pike, taking it out, and look at that. The knight was used to weaken the village so Caesar could finish it off. Because there's nothing really to threaten Caesar on this position, Shu noticed that and was like, great, I'll charge Groove and even up the income differential a little bit. A harpy and a sword working together to do damage to that dog. The harpy can get taken out by that alchemist, maybe, but Shu apparently thought that that was worth it. These swords take out this village, and the giant continues to decap the village with alchemist support. Now, these units are most certainly not enough to fight into all this, but that knight, due to the terrain, can't really reach the alchemist. Things just can't really reach what they need to reach. So for this reason, this is a solid position by Shu. This harpy crit this harpy. Even if it goes down, the gold differential was more or less even. I'm a little bit worried about the counterattack on Shu here, but other than that, Shu was determined to aggress and has succeeded. And remember, the stronghold is now in danger. This knight could actually crit the back of it by going through the village. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, my mistake. It can't crit. This one can crit the left side, and some wraparound will be eventually possible. So there's pressure on the stronghold now. Let's see how Mercenary responds to this. So Mercenary just heals the harpy and kills Shu's harpy pretty much as expected. Alchemist kills the harpy as expected. Pike goes in on the alchemist. It looks like Mercenary won this trade on the counterattack. They took units, got gold. Caesar not so much. But Caesar does have Groove, forcing Mercenary to adopt a very defensive posture around the stronghold so that Caesar doesn't assassinate the stronghold. Because the units moved away to fight this, Caesar's giant was able to move forward and continue to decap villages. All these swords did great damage to the squishier mage and archer, allowing the knight to come in, get a great hit on a sword, another knight follow up to weaken that knight, and now Caesar has Groove. Immediately uses it, no saving it, going all out here. The alchemist goes in to heal some of these damaged swords so they can do more damage. Caesar actually goes knight into pike, and because the pike doesn't have crit and they're both standing on forest, the knight actually came out a little bit ahead on the trade. If not from gold, because the knight is more expensive, but on health. and then another heal goes down to keep the knight healthy, and now there's a healthy knight in front of the stronghold on Forest. With Caesar there, it's a great big threat. Even though it looks like there's crazy counterattack potential here because of all the pikes, Shu's doing a very good job of keeping his army alive. Keep in mind, they've also retreated, again, away from these pikes. So by engaging and then retreating, even though they lost a little bit here, the pikes were forced to cluster around here again instead of moving forward, and now Shu's like, nope, I'm going back to the center. The pikes just have to sit there sadly. They can't make it to this front in time. Alright, since that's knight lived, Mercenary was able to heal it, and the numerous pikes are able to start doing damage, taking out the knight. But because that's flagstone, the sword could live. The pike crit, so Mercenary can't penetrate there any further. The pikes are trying to catch up. They retake this village. The alchemist comes in, takes out a sword. There's a lot of units being killed off by Mercenary, and Mercenary goes commander into commander, and now uses Harpy Knight crit to really weaken that knight. More swords going in, so tons of damage all around, and Alchemist heal really mainly just for that pike. And now Mercenary has a pike line here ready to collapse, has a right flank ready to collapse. Shu is sort of almost surrounded here, and might have to back off a little bit. But the giant just goes straight in and obliterates that knight that just healed. And Shu is not afraid, sending dogs and units forward to try to pick apart this right flank. Using the archer to weaken that unit and then a dog to finish it off, Caesar opens another space here that can be filled. Now Caesar backs off the knight and uses an alchemist in the forest to crit that and take it out. Now there are two spaces here. So take a look at everything that's happening. It looked like an unwinnable fight for Shu, but Shu picked the units off one by one, slowly creating more spaces for more units, doing heavy damage to the right side of Mercenary's attack force. Now, these villages have been taken, some have been flipped. Shu has the income advantage on Mercenary, and is sending in swords to weaken this sword, and now Caesar himself can sit in the forest and take out a unit, so Caesar's farming up for a third groove. It's balloon placement, because that alchemist is very weak and the harpy can't cross here, and this alchemist is stopped by terrain, means that that spot is invincible, so it's very difficult to cross into here. And alright, so knight crit into golem is okay, but remember that golems sort of counter knights, so the knight still took a lot of damage there. Deoda has second groove, and now the pikes are coming in. It looks like you will be able to penetrate, because, yeah, I didn't see that one was so low on health. Alright, there's the dog going in. Now Mercenary's counterattacking and doing the same thing Shu did, opening it up one by one to try to get into some of those softer units. Because of this balloon placement, it's a little bit difficult, but the alchemist still can go into the forest. Crit that archer there. Harpy low health. Pike takes out the sword. Harpy attacks Caesar. Another pike crit. Lots of pike crits. So even though Shu tried to move the fight away from all these pikes, they're still catching up, especially with that balloon there, and now Deoda has groove. Caesar has to be really careful. However, look at Caesar's money. Tons of money. That's because 3 villages of Deoda's are decapped, and 1 is actually owned by Caesar. So that's a huge income advantage. That's why Shu can afford to keep fighting even if the trades aren't optimal. Great dog hit there. Now Caesar decaps another village, which is not only a great way to build Caesar groove, but really hurting Mercia's income. And look, Caesar can't really be killed here. Maybe by an excellent Deoda groove, so Shu has to watch out for that and consider it. And for that reason, Mage heal on Caesar and the Giant. Sword Alchemist combo to take out a pike. That pike wasn't really doing anything, but maybe Shu's just trying for attrition at this point, because the income differential is so high, Shu wants to keep forcing trades. As long as they're almost favorable, Shu will win. Because remember, Mercenary still has to spend a turn recapturing all these villages. And if they don't do that, if Shu just keeps fighting, Mercenary will never get to take the villages back. So Shu is moving the fight over here now, where all these villages have been taken. And it's really hard for Mercenary to regain ground. Shu has 3 villages inside Mercenary's territory and decapped another 2. Even if Mercenary can, like, decap them, Shu still has an army here to fight them. So it's like Mercenary doesn't really have a lot of options here. Also notice Shu is using his extra income to keep his units alive rather than focusing on building new ones. This keeps up the attack, the momentum, because it would take a while for new units to get there, so Shu's just building really fast, cheap alchemists here and spending the rest of the money on heals. The pikes can deal big damage, but they're still so slow. They can't really wrap around and finish off this dog, so someone else has to do it. The pikes are just trying to reclaim territory. I don't know why that sword didn't attack this, but I'm guessing it has something to do with a Wargroove coming up. Alright, lots of holes are being created by the units being killed. So here comes the Wargroove. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pretty good. Deoda reaches max at like I want to say 10ish. So for that reason, if you can get that, ooh, nice, nice. All right. So you want a lot of jumps, is the point. All right. So still, Shu is healing up their alchemists, their knights, their giants, keeping everything fresh. Caesar hits this. It doesn't kill it, but it doesn't matter. Caesar just needed the attack to finish off Groove. These pikes are kind of by themselves, so they make great targets to just get picked off by Shu's fast units. Dog goes in, damages it. Lots of damage being done. Shu was kind of just ignoring Deoda because Shu doesn't want to accidentally help Deoda charge Groove. And after all, this is a war of attrition, so just kill all the units, do lots of damage. Another village decapped. Alright, so you see what Shu is doing here. Constantly decapping villages, capturing lots of villages in Mercenary's territory. That's why Shu can keep making these crazy trades and throw alchemist heals left and right. It doesn't matter, because Mercenary doesn't have the income to keep up, even if the trades benefit Mercenary. Aggression is really rewarded on this map. Yeah, that pike didn't have a backup pike, so it took a lot of damage from that attack. That pike, too, it's like the counterattacks are now starting to hurt Mercenary. Mercenary just doesn't have enough units anymore to keep up. Shu has pretty much won the game at this point. With that barracks decap, Mercenary can now only build off the tower and this Rax, which is too far from the main fight. Mercenary's Rax is surrounded, there's a giant here, and Mercenary is losing tons of troops. It's pretty much over at this point. Additionally, Shu can now just deploy into Mercenary space. So, this looks like GG. But Mercenary is still fighting, trying to recover, giving Deoda Groove from taking out that alchemist, trying to decap this village and recover a little bit of ground on income, but not being able to deploy anything anywhere kind of sucks. With these alchemists in position, that tower is neutralized. Nothing can be built. They'll just be instantly killed. This thing can only turn out like a unit a turn, and Mercenary does not have enough to build anything meaningful, and is just out of units. Ignoring Deoda, because Deoda does not matter, really, at this point. Shu is just assassinating every single unit that Deoda has. Chose not to go after this pike, just taking out the stronghold, probably to just end the game at this point, because it pretty much doesn't matter. And Mercenary
already dead.
Goes for a Deoda Groove, and then promptly surrenders. The game was pretty much over at that point. Alright, so it looked like Shu was making a lot of really bad and dangerous trades, but in reality, with clever positioning, continued aggression, and making sure to charge Caesar Groove at every possible turn, to take cities, and to deny Deoda the ability to get a good groove off, and to leave the pikes in the dust and constantly change fronts, Shu was able to harass Mercenary so much and win the income advantage that she was able to win the game. Honestly, that was some incredible top-level play. It felt like I was watching a Groove of War tournament match. Though this was from the Test Your Mettle January event. That could have been from the Groove of War 3, for all I know. Alright, excellent game, well played. And let's not forget that Mercenary was keeping even with Shu for most of that game. These are both very incredible players. GG.